Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome everyone to another wonderful, Wednesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis here in the host chair for Hustler, who is away on vacation. He's come back sometime. People are asking me, when is he back? I don't know. I know Monday for sure. So I'm here, super pumped to be here on a Wednesday. Great show coming up today. Jamie Thomas of Jets TV joining me in a second. We have Murat Ates of The Athletic also on the Winnipeg NHL club. A lot of people saying, hey, Blue Jays, they're pretty hot. 54-38, 10-game win streak. First place in the AL East. I am pumped to be joined by Rob Wong of Postmedia. We're going in-depth on the Blue Jays. They're firing up first pitch pretty soon. So we caught up before the show. And finally, great event in Winnipeg this week going on right now until the 13th. The Winnipeg National Bank Challenger presented by M. Builds. That's a tennis tournament at the National Bank Tennis Manitoba Hub in West St. Paul. Match play every day starting at 11 a.m., $25 admission. So Mark Arndt, the tournament director, we've had him on the show before. I'm pumped to have him on. Talking about the tournament and some of the great players you're going to see, because we talk a lot about the golf Manitoba Open, making a lot of references to J.J. Spawn, who was here 10 years ago and just won the U.S. Open. But this National Bank Challenger here has had many great players, top 10 in the world right now. And hey, got to give a shout out to the sponsors, because without them, I would not be here right now. So shout out to, I can name them all off. I don't need a list. Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Fans First, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and Cool Ben. I'll have to get to the Fans First fan feedback later today. I see so many people in the chat. Shout out to Bardo. Schickster won the big Pat Mayo poker tournament on a Cool Bet yesterday. I see Kevin in there. Dallas, what's going on, Dallas? Rick, his birthday this week. Minnow says I should be going to the Gold Eyes game tonight. Nice week homestand for the Gold Eyes. Talked with Trevor Curl yesterday about that. And I do have to give another shout out as well. Kenny and Rennie, Ken Weeb and Sean Reynolds having their annual year-end party commemorating the end of the hockey season. And it was so great to see so many listeners in chat, podcast listeners, but also some very special media guests. And I do have to give a shout out to Winnipeg Jets chairman Mark Chipman, who was at the Kenny and Rennie year-end party. Pretty incredible that he would take time out of his day to talk with fans at the event. I can't think of how many NHL owners would be out doing that. So shout out to him and the job that he's done, bringing the Winnipeg Jets back here, but building a hockey club coming off the President's Trophy win. And time to bring in my guest to start the show here with Jets TV, Jamie Thomas. I'm firing this up right now. Jamie, what's going on? Busy week for you guys. Last week, I imagine, a bit quieter right now.
Yeah, like now it's like makeup content stuff. Like it's just trying to find, just much like your show, my friend. There's a lot, especially on a bye week for the Bombers. What are you supposed to talk about? So I like to piggyback off what you're saying about Mark Chipman. It's incredible that he showed up yesterday, and I'm sure the fans appreciated it as they should, because you just said it's not very often an owner of a hockey club will come out to a drinking hole to watch or to talk with people, right? So the fact that, and I've told a lot of people, like he has an open door policy. Like I can walk into his office if he's there, of course, and he's been very gracious with his time. And I always love asking him questions about this whole process of bringing the Jets back to Winnipeg. And of course, there's always little details that come out more as time goes by. But Mark is one of the most genuine people out there. So I'm not surprised he showed up yesterday at Kenny and Reddy's party. I feel really bad. I was supposed to go, but I totally forgot my daughter at a soccer practice. So I've been invited many times by Kenny and Rennie. It just never seemed to work out with my schedule. So eventually down there, I'd like to make my way over because I hear it's a great time. Two great people that work very hard in the business. I don't know how they stay up as late as they do with the 9:30 starts on the West Coast and talking Jets hockey all that late. So full credit to those guys. And again, I've heard that party, the wrap up for Kenny and Rennie is a great time. So eventually down the road here, I'd like to make it out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of owners across sports that's there to, collect a paycheck and try to earn revenue. But I think you can really tell Mark Shipman cares about winning, cares about the community. And again, pretty cool to see him show up to an event like that last night. Jamie, big week last week for the Jets. What was it like for you with the big Jonathan Taves press conference?
Yeah. When the conversation started and there was rumblings that there's a possibility of Jonathan Taves coming to Winnipeg, I don't want to say it's hard to comprehend, really. And even though he's been off for 2 years, I think a lot has been said about what he's going to bring, but I don't think we can really fully comprehend it because we're not players. We're not the guys that are going to be in the dressing room with him. We're not going to be, privy to those conversations, but I think it was pointed out quickly by Scott Arneal, like just anytime he talks, people are going to listen because of what he's accomplished. Like he's lived everything in hockey. And it's incredible to think that the players, especially the leadership group and Mark Scheifele and Adam Lowry and Josh Morrissey, that they're going to have another guy of his stature. Like it was just such an incredible find for the Jets to bring Luke Schenn in, who has, 2 Stanley Cups in his career, but then you throw another guy that's won 3, as a local guy. I just, the amount of content that came out of it, but just the amount of good feelings that came out of it. And it's Remis, it's a continuation of what was a great year. And then you just have another good feeling by adding Jonathan Taves. And sure, it's tough to see Nikolai Ehlers leave town. And I want to say that Jonathan Taves is going to help people get over that. But you can't tell me on opening night when the local kid that's won 3 cups, multiple international tournaments, when he steps on the ice for the first time, wearing that number 19, that those good feelings will come back. So it was great to see the content the guys came up with, where Taves would look at photos when he was growing up and talk about each and every one of them, and just such a great acquisition, a great person. I was fortunate to cover the 2010 Stanley Cup run. I didn't do the Stanley Cup final, but I did do the 2 rounds preceding that, and especially the Western Conference final where they swept San Jose in 4 straight when Dustin Byfuglien was still a Chicago Blackhawk back in 2010. And I just remember the city of Chicago just starting to come back on the train for the Chicago Blackhawks. And then you just think about what happened afterwards and the amount of hockey that he's played in a short period of time because of the 3 cups that they won and all the international events that he played in. It's just such a great. So there's just nothing wrong with it because although you're not sure what the outcome is going to be, you're not sure what Jonathan Taves is right now. Just the intangible part of it is just such a good thing right now, and we'll see if he's ready for a long National Hockey League season again, depending on this recovery. But the fact that he's 2 years and he almost had the game taken away from him not on his terms. I think you have a grateful player. To be wearing Jets colors, to come back home, and then also to be still playing hockey. And I think that's a win-win for everybody.
And see how it turns out on the ice, but that was quite the press conference event there. Lunch after, more importantly, lunch. And actually the best part was that they scheduled for 1 p.m. and it didn't start till 1:15. So we were able to carry it live here with people chatting on thanks to the Winnipeg Jets.
I knew there was a reason why they delayed things, because they're like, listen, Winnipeg Sports Talk wants to take this bad boy live, so we're going to hold it. And how many times, like the best joke that always comes out is like, what time was this 1 o'clock news conference, which is a Paul Edmonds classic. So that's, one of the best part about being in media, especially sports media, is like the amount of time that we wait. And
Yes.
I had a guy that I worked with at when I was with Sportsnet, Sean Colville, is an ENG camera guy for Sportsnet in Calgary. He's like, if I ever taught, sports broadcasting in school, I would come into class, I'd let everybody sit down, then I would leave the class and then come back 45 minutes later and goes, there you go. That's exactly what sports broadcasting is like. And that would be the first class. So
there's certainly a lot of waiting. And hey, I wasn't upset when we started at 1 and it got delayed till 1:15. We just had to talk.
It's a nice lead-in time.
I thought it was great that they scheduled it at 1. I don't know if that was intentional. I did find it interesting that serving lunch after 1. Normally, if there's a lunch, it would be 12. But if they were trying to time it for our show and everyone that they know is already going to be on YouTube wants to watch it live, credit to them, because there's been many times where we've had stop and some press release has come out. So I'll remember that one. They did us a solid.
Well, for all the times that the press releases came out after you were on the air, that's what the Jets owed you. The Jets PR department owed you, and so you're welcome.
I think I said thank you to Gregor. Yeah, I don't know if I did or not. I was talking about something.
I'm sure
else.
You did. You don't forget stuff like that.
I won't forget that. But development camp. You've done many Jets development camps. I remember doing. You did a couple hot laps previously. What stood out to you about this year's edition of development camp?
Okay, so immediately when you asked me that question, I think of Zach Naring, who won an NCAA title last year, his first year playing U.S. college hockey. He just looked so much more confident than when he first came to camp, like right after he got drafted. And North Dakota kid, pretty close, has a lot of family in the Manitoba area, especially in Winnipeg. He's a big kid. He was healthy last year after a previous year with concussion issues. But man, when he had the puck on his stick, he just looks very, very confident, either passing or shooting the puck. Always excited to watch Colby Barlow go to work. Like, former first round pick, Braden Yeager, Klingsell was one of the new draft picks. Was excited to see Sasha Boumediene, like the way the kid skates. So we can go down the list about the things that you're excited about, the things that catches your eyes, but Zach Naring stuck out the most. And I also am a big fan of Dominic DiVincentis. Just love how quickly, how confident he is, and certainly how he fits into the long-term Winnipeg Jets goaltending plans. It's just, development camp is always interesting because you're excited to see the new draft picks, but 2, you're just right. You want to see how each player is starting to grow. And you have some guys that are going to be graduating to the Moose next year, but it's like there's a big influx coming in. Colby Barlow, Jacob Julian, who won a Memorial Cup with the London Knights. And I know Julian's a little, of course, a 5th round pick, but you can't overlook the fact that he's played 60 playoff games in the Ontario Hockey League the last 3 years, plus 8 Memorial Cup playoff, 8 Memorial Cup games, 2 of those in the championship final this year and the previous year to that. So while he's a 5th round pick, but the playoff experience that this young man has already at this young age that he is right now is only going to help him eventually, whether he plays in the East Coast or the American Hockey League next year. So always that aspect of it, my friend, is just, you're always excited to see how these guys have developed or where they're going and how much more confidence they have at this point. But that's what development camp is. And I think it's great. Jets fans are so great, and they're always, they're insatiable appetite for hockey all the time, even though it's July. And, guys like you and me are ready to, check out for a little bit. They can't get enough. So I always appreciate the fact that people love to come down to Hockey for All Center and watch the future of the Jets, because I'm sure just as excited as we are as to the future of this team, and certainly what the Manitoba Moose will look like next year when they get an influx of drafted talent that they have developed at this point, and how their turn to pro is going to go next season.
Yeah, even though it's July and you want to get outside, there are fans getting pictures, and it is always fun to look back at those pictures years later saying, hey, I was at development camp when,
It's like Owen Martin.
ex-player like Owen Martin went there and now is taking part in it. So some pretty cool stories there. Zach Naring, I was there when he got drafted in Nashville. We were there together.
We were there together.
I think it was after my laptop melted when he got picked.
What people don't realize is just how ripping hot it was in Nashville that weekend, man. Like it was so hot. So I could see how that happened, but I don't know. Were you guys stuck in Nashville after that one because of the weather and stuff? Because we got out of there, Cameron Penny and I think we got out of there like the last flight before the weather came in and it caused all the delays. So I know a lot of people were stuck down in Nashville for a while, but yes, we were there for Zach Naring, and he's clearly added some weight and some confidence. So another couple of years playing college hockey is I believe, on the docket for him, which means he'll only be bigger and stronger by the time he turns pro.
Yeah, taller and lanky, 6'5". He's listed on Hockey DB, 6'5", like 180. And we didn't bring this. It was like 2 years ago at the end of June when the laptop was in my bag. I pulled it out and it had melted and cracked, overheating.
You guys didn't go, right? You guys didn't go this year because it was decentralized?
Yeah, I wasn't going. It was decentralized. Yeah, there's no. You go to I guess go with the GMs and the draft picks. I watched it on TV. It was nice to be home. Gave me a reason to not go. Like my kids are off school that week. My wife's always like mad at me for leaving. Yeah,
because it's like right when the kids are their last week of school, they're already done, and you and your wife are scrambling trying to figure out just who's going to watch the Rascals while you're out of town. Yes. And then you're traditionally going like, if Nashville is a fantastic place and you're leaving your wife again after a full year of hockey, it's just not a very popular time. It's just not a popular decision. No. It's almost like they forget it's coming. And then when you tell them, by the way, the draft is this, I have to go to the draft. And there's that eyebrow raise all the time. It's the same as when I go to the rookie tournament at the beginning part of September. You're scrambling to get your kids ready for school, and you're like, oh, by the way, I'm leaving for Penticton. See you later. I'll be gone in a week. While you're in the midst of school, like right at that first couple of weeks, which is a gong show, as you know, Remis.
Yes.
It's a gong show the last week of school, and it's a gong show the first month, all September, because everybody's just adapting to everyday school after they do nothing for 2 months.
Yeah, hey, just on that rookie term, I don't think that's taking place this year in Penticton. It's done, correct?
No, it's not in Penticton, but I believe there are some conversations about going out east, but I'll wait till that comes out a little bit later.
Is that breaking news? Are you the insider?
Not breaking news, but there could be. There's other things in the works.
Oh, okay. We will stay tuned. I will keep my email inbox open for a potential press release. Yes. I imagine they'd get together with some team for something. Yeah,
it's just too valuable for them to not do anything. And I just remember, clearly COVID messed that up for a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember the one year they went to Penticton, there was just them and the Canucks. That sucked. They played the Canucks twice in Penticton, but it's unfortunate. I love this. I love going to Penticton. It's just such a beautiful place, even in mid-September. And anytime you go to a place that has two lakes at either end of the city, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's unfortunate that the Penticton part of it isn't working. But I'm not sure if it's Edmonton or Vancouver that couldn't work it out. But these rookie tournaments are just again, people wait all summer for something to happen. The rookie tournaments are always nice to get everybody back in the flow again.
I always have fond memories because in 2011 it was like the first time we ever saw anyone wear Jets jersey in that Penticton tournament in game action. So I will stay tuned. And we did just wrap up a week of free agency. It can be the Jets or any other team. I mean, what did you think of this year's edition of July 1?
I don't know. Like, I think much as anybody, it's very underwhelming because you think with the ability for teams to open up their wallets, a lot of teams took care of business early, which is smart business by anybody. Nikolai Ehlers taking a little bit of time to decide what he's going to do with his future. I think that delayed things. And I mean, sorry, that brought some intrigue, especially from a Winnipeg Jet fan perspective. But I don't know. Like, I thought with all the cash that was out there, there's going to be some silly spend. There's always some silly spending this time of year. But I think a lot of business, like teams, have taken care of what had to happen. But I think the business at hand, we just talked about, a little bit about Nikolai Ehlers. I always like to tell people just how great he was to deal with. And I truly believe that, in his thank you letter that he wrote to Winnipeg and certainly to the organization, he means every word of it, because I never got a sense that he wasn't happy here. That's just from talking from day to day. And last year, we can look at time on ice, we can look at all that stuff like that, the usage that he had. Last year, he had every opportunity to be successful, and he was. And he was such an instrumental part of the Jets' power play, being number one in the National Hockey League last year, and being a top six forward. And I just think the amount he has grown since I came here in 17-18 is, it's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal human being. He's a guy that gets you out of your seat every time he touches the puck, and those guys are hard to find. And it's going to be very tough it's a big hole to fill. Like Gustav Nyquist will do his best. I'm sure there'll be other options on top of that, likely Cole Perfetti going to the top power play unit. But I just don't think, we should take anything, but we should take Nick's word on his experience. He was happy here. I don't think we should look at his usage being the reason why he decided to go somewhere else. He just said he wanted something new, and you have to believe that at that. And, the Carolina Hurricanes are a fun team to watch. They've been very successful. They just can't get over the hump in the Eastern Conference. Maybe Ehlers pushes them over the top. I'm not sure. But what he did here should always be noted. And I'm very curious and looking forward to his first game back here when he's with the Hurricanes. I think it'll be emotional for a lot of people, especially him. Listening to Scott Arniel talk about how the phone call was emotional. Same thing with Kevin Cheveldayoff, speaking of Ehlers. That just goes to show you how long he was here and how much of an investment it was for everybody, investment for fans. But, over the time that I traveled on the road, Nikolai Ehlers was always signing autographs, either going on the bus or coming off the bus, or practice rinks across the National Hockey League. Very well loved in the city, and for a very good reason.
Now, I'm sure at Jets HQ you're putting together the tribute video as we await the schedule. I think like the 18th or something. It's coming out
Wednesday. Yeah, but listen, remember how compressed it was last year? Imagine how compressed it's going to be this year.
Yes.
But there's going to be a long stretch without hockey, clearly with the Olympic break. But I'm just, after watching Four Nations face off, buddy, we should all be excited that the NHL players are playing the Olympics again, even though it is 3 weeks off, and the schedule, and the players are going to pay the price because of how compressed it's going to be. But I love best on best hockey. It's the best thing for the sport. So I'm wondering how many back-to-back, the Jets have been blessed the last couple of years with not many back-to-backs. I wonder how many of those are going to be compressed together with 3 weeks off on the schedule, because it was a very short break for the Four Nations face-off in February. So we'll see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, July 16, the release. I already got all the content figured out. Top games, home, road. I'm going to have the late games circled. Jamie, it is summer. I was talking with some of my guests yesterday, Drew Mindell. His family likes going to Clear Lake. John Hodge is a big rainbow stage guy. Is there? I'm trying to come up with all the Winnipeg summer activities. You got something you and your family like to do in the summer?
Remis, we have kids, so it's just especially teenage. I have a kids, so I'm a little further ahead on that one. But my young, we're going to Edmonton for a soccer tournament. My nephew's getting married in Calgary, but we traditionally don't really go around Winnipeg I go Victoria Beach and Winnipeg Beach for a day trip and stuff like that, but I don't go on holidays. It's more
not a big folk. You're not going to Folk Fest this weekend?
No.
Folklorama, not a big golf?
Dude.
Fringe Fest?
This is no fringe. It's just, I'm done. I've experienced everything. So I don't need to go out to find stuff. I got everything, all the entertainment and circus stuff I need is right inside my house.
What about Rock and Thunder tonight? Def Leppard. You going to Def Leppard, Foreigner, Joan Jett, 2 big show tonight at the Princess Auto Stadium.
Last time I went to a concert, Remis, was 2010. I saw Iron Maiden in Edmonton.
That was the last time.
Yeah,
you went to a concert.
Last time I went to a concert. So I'm done with those two. Like I've seen it. Like I've seen the bands I've wanted to see. I remember wanting to see Iron Maiden in the '80s. So they came to Calgary with Twisted Sister. My parents wouldn't let me. Because I was too young. I was like 13. That was right around the "we're not going to take it" part of Twisted Sister, because that was when weed was illegal and your parents didn't want you around it when you're young. Because so that big haze of the cloud of smoke inside this anytime you go to the arena to any of those concerts. So my parents were not a big fan of that one. So I got kiboshed. So I finally got to see Iron Maiden well after, their prime years, which is unfortunate because I didn't remember a lot of the music. I didn't know a lot of the music they were ripping out in 2010 in Edmonton. I like my 80s days. The Power Slave album was huge in my time. But it's been a while since I've gone to a concert, buddy. And I'm so, my hearing is so damaged. My wife goes crazy every day because I can't hear anything she says. And it's just because of all the rinks we've been in, all the concerts I've been to, headphones probably. Edmund's yelling in my ear for 3 years. So my ears are done. So that's probably why I don't go out to those concerts anymore. And they're expensive, buddy.
Yeah, they are expensive. And I will say, if you wanted to go to the Country Thunder show tomorrow, yes. I've paired tickets to give away, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Get on that quick. I have to give them away tonight. It is tomorrow. But yeah,
are we allowed to win? Guests aren't allowed to win though, right? Fellow media members can't win those types of things.
It's for listeners. I don't have like official rules, but listeners only.
But I do listen to the show, so technically, right? Technically, I am a listener. I do watch it every once in a while.
Yeah, and while you do work for the Jets, you are in media. It is technically the off season. I am listening. It is the off season. So
if I'm on holidays, do I become a listener, or am I still part of the media? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Yeah. Don't worry, guys. I will not be taking your Country-rama tickets. I think I saw. I've probably seen about 3 country bands, but this is when '90s, when country music made its comeback. Country music was dropping off, and then early '90s, because I was a country bar DJ in the early '90s in Edmonton. That was my first job out of broadcasting school, was Tumbleweeds in Edmonton.
Nice. So, well, yeah, Jamie, you've certainly got some stories dropping. Iron Maiden, Edmonton 2010. I think I saw the Winnipeg one here. It was a couple days later, June 2010. I was at that one. But you dropped 2010 Chicago Blackhawks Stanley Cup run.
It was a good year in 2010, buddy. 2010 was a good year.
Tumbleweeds. Yeah. So it's been
that's
a ride
92, 93. That's prime. I wear country clothes. I had my roommate was a cowboy, so I borrowed his clothes. There's but the best part is there's no photos of it. I wear ropers. Yeah. I had Wranglers on. I had the full country shirt on, the cowboy hat. There's no photo evidence. That's the best part. Not that there's anything wrong with those clothes. It just didn't suit me. So it was, but I knew how to 2-step with the best of them, buddy, because I had to run dance lessons on Monday and Wednesdays at Tumbleweeds.
Tumbleweeds. Oh. All right, Jamie, I appreciate you taking on. Always fun. I didn't even ask you about fantasy football. I forgot. It was on my list. Are you prepping? Drafts that are coming up. People are asking me to start, activate our league on whatever website we're on. Are you doing a lot of research? Got your rankings?
So I think so. You can't really take anything seriously until training camp starts. So no, I'm in a hiatus. I used to I bought all the magazines for the longest time. But I started to realize that you have to stick with one magazine. You have to stick with one website, because if you overload yourself, that's when then you tinker too much. When you become a tinkerer, that's disaster.
Yes.
My son won 2 fantasy leagues without making one trade and one waiver wire pickup.
How?
Back-to-back champions. I don't know how he did it.
Man.
He had Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, those were his keepers for like 3 years, and he went to the conference final 1 year, and then won back-to-back titles, then quit without making one trade and one waiver wire addition. Remis.
That's not possible because in every league I'm in, you get decimated by injuries. It's not even it doesn't even matter who you draft because everyone gets hurt. That's why I'm kind of out on season-long football. Not
one injury issue. It was ridiculous. I'm handing him $600 in cash and going, how? After I read all those magazines, and all he said, Dad, I just took the guy that had the highest start percentage. I'm like, get out.
Smart kid,
yeah.
Jamie. Well, it's been great chatting with you. Love all the work you guys are doing on WinnipegJets.com. Jets TV, you and Sarah with the check-in.
Orlesky does way more work than I do. So, and the last, I hope you watch the last version of Runway because it got emotional.
Okay, it's on my list. I haven't watched anything.
It's 49 minutes, so it's an investment of time. It's really good though.
I'm doing this. I got kids. I'm doing work, so I don't watch anything these days. So I gotta watch that Runway. It's like a movie.
It's a total movie. It had a trailer and everything, but when it's an investment of time. I watched it in 2 chunks because I, like you, do not have the time to watch anything 49 minutes straight without getting killed. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like you can't. Your wife goes, "What are you doing?" And you can only say, "Oh, I'm just checking out Runway," for so long, even though I work for the company.
I gotta find time. I saw it's in 4K on YouTube too, so they're really pulling out all the stops. Got to take advantage of my 4K television.
Spared no expense, Remis. Spared no expense.
Can't imagine all the hard drive space that takes up there at Winnipeg Jets HQ.
I don't even know. I just tell the guys, great job. I don't even know how they do the stuff they do. That's the best part. And they're like half my age.
Yes, they are doing an amazing job. Jamie, I'd keep keeping too much of your time. I think it's at 20 minutes. We've been over 30 here, so
we're on vacation, so it doesn't matter.
Well, it's been great catching up with you. I love when I call you when I'm in the host chair and we can talk about Hustler behind his back. So
we haven't even got into that now. So it's just like, has he got over the Super Bowl loss yet, or is it just still?
I think he's living
I've been to 3 Super Bowls. Don't even care. You didn't win, and now it's becoming more enjoyable to watch them lose. So.
Yeah, the Chiefs became hated overnight.
Onward and downward.
They were
against the City Chiefs.
There we go. Well, appreciate it. Jamie,
buddy.
Thanks again. We'll be in touch.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to me. There he is, Jamie Thomas. Jamie Thomas TV on X. He's at the Check-In Winnipeg Jets YouTube channel. Him and Sarah doing a great job. And written word as well. Multi-talented Jamie Thomas. We're going to talk some Blue Jays coming up next, but first, here's us.
Let me shout out our pals at Royalties Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk, family-owned and operated for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. If you and your family are on the move, head on over to Royalties.com, click on Request an Estimate, put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And our friends at Rollies will turn it around real quick with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove service that Rollies is famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all of your moving needs, make it Rollies. Keep your eyes out for that WST truck on the road as well. Snap a pic if you see it. And, of course, Rollies.com for all the information on that and your next move. A big thanks to St. Vital Dental Center for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. St. Vital Dental Center, full-service dental clinic led by our pal Dr. Terry James and his amazing staff that have been serving Winnipeggers and Manitobans for generations. But now they've got a beautiful new facility with state-of-the-art equipment at 167 St. Anne's with free parking right behind the building to take care of all your dental needs for patients from 6 months to 99 plus. If you need a dentist or it's been a minute since you've been there, find out more at stviteldental.ca. Make an appointment and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Somewhat of a long weekend. I guess it's going to be a really long weekend. A lot of people are going to be taking Monday off. Canada Day on Tuesday. Not if you're in the hockey media, as we're going to be talking to Dave Pagnotta, but if you are planning for a weekend, head on down to your local Manitoba liquor marts. Of course, Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. If there's any Canadian club left in this city after the football game on Thursday, you'll be able to find it at Manitoba liquor marts. But take a look for the new club pack, CC and Ginger Ale, the CC Half and Half, and the Citrus Smash ready-to-drink cocktails. Unbelievable addition to the summer lineup. Pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And of course, Manitoba Battery powering us through another summer. They got the cars and trucks through the winter. Now they're helping Winnipeggers and Manitobans save big on their batteries for their campers, their boats, ATVs, Sea-Doos, all the fun stuff that we love to use during the summer. You got to have batteries for. And it is time to quote Ken Wiebe, it's a bit of a wake-up call to everyone. Stop paying extra, up to $60 more at the big box stores than you'll get when you shop local at Manitoba Battery. Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, 2 locations to serve you. But they've also got free delivery anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Find out more in store today or order online at manitobabattery.com.
There's Huss. He'll be back, I think, next week. I'm in the whole week in the host chair. Very fun sitting in. Jude's asking, is it stressful or is it fun? I think a bit of both. It's nice talking to everyone, and I'm super pumped to have our next guest coming up, Rob Wong of Postmedia. He's the digital content editor. Rob, the Toronto Blue Jays, they're on a 10-game win streak. They're currently first in the AL East. I mean, how surprising is this? And what have you seen here from the Jays this season?
I would say it's incredibly surprising. I mean, I don't think there's really any words to describe what they are doing, considering, first of all, how they played at the beginning of the season. And of course, the expectations coming into the year. Last year, this was one of the worst teams in all of baseball. And I think a lot of people felt coming into the season, even with the additions of a guy like Anthony Santander and Max Scherzer and Jeff Hoffman, it was okay. They'll probably be a little bit better. Maybe they can challenge for a wild card, but to see them go from where they were in the basement last year to where they are right now, up a bunch of games here on the Yankees on a 10-game win streak, sitting in first place, trying to chase down the Astros for the second best record in the American League. It's truly remarkable, the complete 180 that this team has made, considering where they were just a year ago.
It's funny you mentioned the names that they signed, Santander and Scherzer. Those guys have been injured and not even contributing. So what's happened here with this transformation? Is it a culture shift, player development, analytics? What do you think has led to this win streak?
I think the simple answer, it's a combination of everything. Everybody's talking right now about the shift in the culture and, how things are behind the scenes. And I think you're always going to hear that, of course, with teams that are doing well. You never hear that, hey, everything's all rosy and everything's great when teams are losing. That was not the case last year, and not that, these guys disliked each other by any means. But when you're winning games and you're winning the way that this team is right now, the vibes are going to be high. But it's really because they're getting contributions from everyone. Like I mentioned, it's been a 26-man effort in some senses. All you have to do is look at the first 2 games of this White Sox series, and in the first game, you got back-to-back home runs from Nathan Lucas and Joey Loperfido. And then in game number 2, Davis Schneider hits a home run. Addison Barger continues to do his thing, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. picks up a couple of RBIs. And, the job that the bullpen has done this year is remarkable. All the different names and faces that have, come up and contributed, whether it's a Braden Fisher, you look at the step that a guy like Brendan Little has made, and even the rotation. I know we're recording this ahead of the series finale, but, Eric Lauer and the job that he has done since joining the Blue Jays is really a depth piece coming into the season. And you can make the case right now he might be, as far as the stats go, the third best starter on this team. So it's incredible the contributions that this team has gotten. But I think, for the most part, when you look at the way this team has gone about things this year, it really has been a team effort pretty much all season, aside from George Springer carrying the Blue Jays during that stretch against the Yankees and the Angels. It's really been a bunch of guys stepping in at different points of the year and helping them get to where they are now, 15 games above 500, 16 games above 500.
Yeah, 10-game win streak, first place in the AL East. This is stuff we haven't seen from the Blue Jays since, 2015, when they made the playoffs with that great team then. Was there a moment for you where you started to think, hey, this feels kind of different? And I feel like I should point out, it seemed like, it was before the season, but when they got that Vlad contract out of the way, got it signed, it really signaled, hey, we're here, we're trying to compete. We're trying to win, and to have a player like him sign on the dotted line with the Blue Jays, who you mentioned did not have a great season last year, maybe that was something that got more buy-in from everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, having someone locked up, in Vladimir Guerrero Jr., they chose a path, because I think that was really the biggest question before the season. And even, when the contract did not come down during spring training with Vlad, it was, okay, well, are the Blue Jays going to go the rebuild path? At some point this season and have a sell-off like they did a year ago? Or are they going to get a deal done at some point and then, choose to be a team that's going to contend? And I think, when they got that contract signed, I don't know if it was sort of the launching off point to what we've seen so far in this season, but I think at least for the players, it told them, we're trying to win. This is not a rebuilding team. We're going to put our best foot forward. And luckily for the front office, it has translated a lot faster than I think they would have expected. As far as, a point in the season where it has felt different, I think it was the Yankees series, to be honest with you, because, the Blue Jays were winning a bunch of games against some pretty solid teams, against the Phillies, and, the Minnesota Twins aren't particularly good, but, they're a team that has some talented players. The Blue Jays got some wins there. They, of course, swept the St. Louis Cardinals a couple of weeks ago. So those were nice victories, but to go up against a Yankees team that, has been running the division for pretty much the entire year and sweep them in the fashion that they did, and now leading to this incredible win streak that they're on, I think that has finally sort of jolted me and been like, okay, this is for real. This team is definitely playing great baseball. They're a lot better than I think we all thought they were. Doesn't mean they're going to go on and win the division. It's still early. We're not even at the All-Star break, and we'll see what comes playoff time, because we know historically, at least in recent years, this is not a team that has had great success in the postseason. But I think, what they're accomplishing right now and what they should accomplish the rest of the way here is just above anybody's possible imagination when we began the season.
Yeah, the Blue Jays last year, not a playoff team, not a great season, similar roster, didn't have much expectations. But during that Yankees series, I found myself being like, hey, I got to tune in. And you see George Springer stepping up with a couple big home runs there. John Schneider, we've said so much about him the last couple of years. How much credit do you give him for this turnaround?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you always talk about the manager. When things are going well, they probably get more hate than they deserve, and when things are going well, they don't seem to always get as much credit as maybe they deserve. So the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. At the end of the day, it's the players that are playing. But I think what you do have to give them credit for is, putting players in positions to succeed. I think, that is ultimately the manager's job, whether it's, coming up with the lineup and where guys slot in there, and the bullpen, of course, bringing guys into, they always talk about pockets of where these relievers come in and, maybe where they match up well against the lineup and the different hitters. And I think John Schneider has done a really good job of that. No manager is ever going to go 100 for 100 or 100% when they make any decisions on any given season. But I would say, this year, probably more than any of his tenure, I would probably say it's been the most impressive, just because of the different, faces that have had to come up from AAA and the different injuries that he's had to face. I think he's done a really good job pulling the strings. And, the Blue Jays players have talked a lot about this culture shift and the communication communication improving over the last season and a bit here. So credit to John Schneider, because I think a couple of years ago, when we all remember the pull that he made in that wild card series against the Minnesota Twins with Jose Barrios, I feel like a lot of people thought, okay, maybe this isn't the right guy for the job. And managers are always still going to feel the heat from some section of the fan base, even when things are going well. But I would say right now it's pretty clear that he is the right man for the job.
Yeah, and one guy who's put in a position to succeed this year, becoming a household name, Addison Bargers, tied for second on the team in homers with 12 with Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., 842 OPS. Who's this Addison Barger? Everyone's talking about him. Now, what a great season he's having.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. And I think, when you look at his tools and all the stuff that he was doing in the minor leagues, you always thought, okay, if this guy ever puts it together, he could be something special. And we saw when he came up last year, he, had to make some tweaks, and he was still adjusting to major league pitching, and it didn't go particularly well. But I do remember talking to some people in the media last year when he was going through his struggles during the summer. I thought, this feels like a guy that just needs to come up, experience the major league level, and when he comes back next year, I think he's going to be a lot better. Now, did I think he was going to be this level of good and maybe one of the best two players on the team this season? I don't think anyone could have expected that, but he's always had this potential, and he's putting it together right now. And this is a front office that has taken a lot of heat for its minor league system and its player development, and they haven't been able to develop any star position players maybe since Alejandro Kirk, who's going back to the All-Star game, and you go beyond that, it's maybe a Bo Bichette. So to have a guy like Addison Barger, who's 25 years old and looks like he's going to be a core piece, is really impressive with the work that he's done, of course, and the work that the Blue Jays have done to get him to a point now where he's an everyday piece, a core piece, and looks like a potential star in the making.
Yeah, pretty awesome to see there. You mentioned earlier the big free agent signing, Anthony Santander. He's missed most of the season with injury. Dalton Varsho out. I mean, when can we expect these guys back, and how will they fit into the lineup? It would have to be a boost to be getting a bat like Santander in the lineup whenever he returns.
Well, beginning with Santander, he was placed on the 60-day IL just a few days ago, so he wouldn't be eligible to return until the end of the month at the earliest. And as far as what we've heard from the team, he hasn't even begun swinging a bat yet. So that kind of just goes to show you maybe how hurt he is and where he is on his trajectory from his rehab. So it does seem like Dalton Varsho is going to get back sooner than Anthony Santander with that hamstring strain that he suffered a few weeks ago, and they would be huge boosts. I still think the Blue Jays need to make some moves ahead of the trade deadline, whether that's to get another right-handed bat, of course, to get some pitching in the rotation and the bullpen. But, you bring in those two guys that have major league track records, it really gives you excitement, the potential of where this team could go. I know everybody's loving all the fringe guys on the roster right now, whether it's a Davis Schneider or Joey Loperfido. Ernie Clement, I wouldn't call him a fringe guy. I think he's an everyday piece on this team. But there's nothing wrong with upgrading over those guys as well, and maybe adding some pieces that are not on this team right now. So the Blue Jays are in a great spot. They've got too many good problems, which is something you haven't been able to say about this team for quite a while. But getting Dalton Varsho back, getting Anthony Santander back really raises the ceiling for this team, and I think that's what makes a lot of people excited about what could happen here over the next couple of months.
Yeah, the trade deadline at the end of the month, you mentioned a couple areas they could upgrade. Do you anticipate Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro will be active in the trade market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at every year that they've been a playoff team or tried to be a playoff contender, they've gone out and made some moves and acquired several players. In fact, I don't need to go through the whole list, of course, but this is a front office that is not afraid to add pieces at the deadline. They haven't necessarily swung for the big superstar pieces, and this is going to be a weird trade deadline because I'm not sure that there's those types of players out there. There's still a lot of teams that are in the mix for a playoff spot. But I know people have mentioned it before. Could they do something like they did a few years ago, where they get a Jose Barrios, a guy that is under team control for maybe a couple of years, that can be a part of this year's run and next year, or even beyond that. That seems to be sort of their MO with this front office, where they're not huge on the rentals. They do it from time to time. Of course, you remember Robbie Ray a few years ago when the Blue Jays acquired him from the Diamondbacks, and he was so-so for the Blue Jays before re-signing and then having that Cy Young season a year after that. But at the end of the day, this is a team that when they're feeling like they can make a run and be a playoff team, they're not afraid to make a move. So I would be shocked if they didn't do anything. I think the question right now is what teams are going to fall out of the race, what type of players are going to be available, and are the Blue Jays going to want to swim in the deep waters with some of these big names.
Yeah, I'll have to see. It seems like a perfect storm here. The AL East, normally the toughest division, but you got the Rays not quite up there. The Red Sox taking a step back, and Baltimore Orioles really disappointing year, firing the manager earlier in this season. I think over the last couple of years, you haven't had a playoff series win in the Shapiro-Atkins era. Fans getting, kind of frustrated with how the team is going. Are we seeing some big crowds there at Rogers Center now that they're on top of the division?
Yeah, the crowds have been really great. Recently, the Yankees always draw a ton of fans, of course, and there was a huge turnout for that over the weekend against the Angels. It was pretty big. I know everybody's sort of comparing this to 2015 and that incredible run that the Blue Jays had that summer, where their stadium was seemingly packed every night once the Blue Jays went on their run towards the playoffs. And I feel like we could be, seeing that again, where, earlier this year, not that the crowds were sparse by any means, but, the attendance wasn't as big. Kids are still in school and the team wasn't playing great, so fans are still taking a wait and see approach. But if this team continues to do what it's doing, they make some additions at the trade deadline, and they're in first place, I would not be surprised to see Rogers Center packed like it was 10 years ago for that 2015 team.
Yeah, bringing a lot of flashbacks to 2015 as the Jays are in first place. We're approaching the All-Star break. If you had to pick a pre-All-Star break MVP, handing out some awards, who's your vote going to on the Jays?
Man, that's a good one, because I feel like it's sort of switched for me every few weeks or so. At one point, I thought Alejandro Kirk for sure was the MVP of this team. What he was doing behind the plate and at the dish, it was really, really strong. And then Addison Barger, I would say there was a time where he was carrying the mail for this team. But over the last couple of weeks here, George Springer has been a huge catalyst for this team. And, aside from maybe a few weeks where he kind of slowed down, I think for the most part, he's been the best offensive player on this team, and just doing so many different things, coming up clutch with some, big time hits as well. So maybe it's a bit recency bias here because he's coming off an AL Player of the Week nod, but I feel as though George Springer right now, probably my first half MVP for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, George Springer leading the team in home runs, leading the team. I got 886 OPS, pretty awesome. And I wonder if it changes the way you look at George Springer's tenure. I mean, a huge free agent signing, and he's just come up huge here on this win streak.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. This is a guy who still has some time left on his mega deal that he signed with the Blue Jays a few years ago. And he, I think people forget when he first started with the team, he didn't play, right off the hop because he was hurt coming out of spring training, and it took him a while to get going. And of course, there was that weird COVID season, and in the first few years, he struggled with injuries. And when he was on the field, he was very productive. But when he was not playing, that obviously was difficult for the team. And then the last couple of years, the performance started to dwindle as he got older. And really, this year, it's just been miraculous that he has found the fountain of youth and is arguably having his best season as a Blue Jay, which I don't think anybody could have expected coming into the season. But I think really what it comes down to is, can the Blue Jays win a playoff series, win a couple of playoff series? Because I think that will ultimately define the George Springer era and how people view him. This recent run here and resurgence has obviously helped that, because I think if he was having another season like he did a year ago, people are going to paint this contract as maybe not a failure, because I think, people still would have done it 10 times out of 10 if you had the opportunity to do it again. But a playoff series win, maybe a couple of playoff series win, I think will really help shape how people view that contract when it comes down to the end of it. And if he's a part of that as well, not just a passenger, then I think that will really change people's perception.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if they're able to pull it off. You have the Blue Jays 54-38, only a plus 21 run differential. I wonder if that's why guys like Michael Kay in the New York media are saying they're not a real first place team. But as far as this win streak goes, is it a flash in the pan, or do they have what it takes to finally win that elusive playoff series? It would be the first one under the Shapiro Atkins era.
Look, I think anytime you're winning this amount of games in a row, you're always going to get some good fortune. I made a post after one of the more recent games. It was, well, you got to be good to be lucky, and you got to be lucky to be good. I think that's generally the case when teams win double-digit games. But I don't think it's a fluke in the sense that I think the Blue Jays are doing a lot of good things process-wise. I think they're making a lot of really good contact with some of their hitters. They're not striking out very much. They're putting the ball in play. So in a sense, you're sort of creating your own luck that, you're not striking out as much. You're going to give yourself the opportunity that, maybe the team makes a fielding error like we saw in that game against the Angels where the pitcher threw it away, or, you're going to find a hole somewhere and a ball's going to get through the infield and you're going to score a run. They're running the bases well. They're the best defensive team arguably in all of baseball. They're getting some contributions from their pitchers as well, even if their starters maybe aren't going 7-8 innings every single night. So I think there's a lot of good process things that are happening that are allowing them to, be in these games and ultimately come away with some victories. So yeah, I would not call it a fluke. This is not a team, like the Diamondbacks maybe a couple of years ago who did not have a great run differential, but even a lot of the under the hood stuff, you were sort of like, okay, I still really don't understand how this team is going about this. So, are the Blue Jays a team that is this good, 16 games over 500? Maybe not, but I would not say by any stretch of the imagination that they are fluky in the way that they have found themselves in first place.
Well, Rob, it's been great connecting with you here, talking Jays. Where can people find your content at Postmedia?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find my stuff over at the Toronto Sun primarily. Do a lot of MLB content with the Blue Jays, do NHL, NFL, WWE, and NBA. So I'm all over the map, but baseball is my first love. It's my favorite sport that I watched growing up, and it's always great to be talking about the Blue Jays when they're playing well. There's really nothing like it.
Yeah, very exciting. We've had people in our chat come in saying, hey, you got to talk Jays. We saw it in 2015 here. I mean, Jays jerseys everywhere. A lot of excitement. So, hey, it's on every day. It's the summer. We're looking forward to seeing this winning continue. Rob, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Absolutely. No problem, Michael.
There he is, Rob Wong. Follow him on X, Rob Wong 34. We caught up earlier in the day as the Blue Jays currently in action against the lowly Chicago White Sox, up 1-0 in the top of the third. Great chatting with Rob, and hopefully the Jays can give us something to keep talking about this summer. It's not just a flash in the pan. Murat Ates of The Athletic coming up next, but first, here's Huss.
July 18th will be the next time we're back at Princess Auto Stadium, and I imagine that'll be a team in a very ornery mood after what happened last night. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or out in Brandon. And, of course, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. I am going to be off the show next week because I'm going to be with Mark, our winner from the Health Sciences Center Foundation lottery auction out at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. And I'll certainly be firing out some pictures, hopefully of some big fish and some great times from Aikens. But this is a great time. If you're thinking about maybe getting a world-class fly-in fishing experience coming up this summer, there's a little bit of extra room this year because less Americans coming over the border. So, folks, if you're thinking about a July, later on in August or September booking, WST listeners 10% off right now. Go over to aikenslake.com. You can find out all the information on options and availability for the 2025 fishing season. And when you call and talk to Pitt or Julie, make sure you said you heard it on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I want to take advantage of an even better deal, 10% off right now to WST listeners, aikenslake.com. I promise to come back with some great pictures and some good stories when I'm back after the trip next week. And hey, do want to thank our friends at F Apparel for their support of WST. Guys, the summer's here, wedding season, right in the middle of it. If you need to up your menswear game, there's only one place to go, and that's F Apparel. Custom suits starting at just over $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. And by the way, if you are in a wedding party or getting married yourself, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a special discount for wedding parties when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. Find out more online or book an appointment at F, that's EPH, apparel.com.
There's Huss. He's at Aikens, and I play this recorded reads, gives me a break, and he's just such a pro at delivering it. I try my best, but there is only one Hustler, so he'll be back next week. And there's also only one Murat Ates of The Athletic. So pumped for this. We got a lot of Jets topics we've been discussing as it was a busy week last week. Murat, what's happening? How's the week been for you? A bit quieter since July 1 and last Friday.
Yeah, it's sort of given me a chance to work on a bit of a longer story that I wanted to do kind of in the follow-up of all the July 1 stuff. So I've been working on that today, and I'll have that go live tomorrow. And then other than that, it does kind of feel like this is when things will calm down. I know we have some arbitration dates coming up. There's some contracts still to sign, some tweaking still to do. But I'll admit, yeah, I've been out in the sun today.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful day out. And you mentioned the arbitration. It seems like you have Velarde, Sandberg, Barron. Not any real concerns. Like, it would be a surprise if they actually went to arbitration, if you had the hearing and they didn't get something done compared to previous years.
Yeah, 100%. I would be surprised as well. You can just go back to 2023, the last time that Velarde and I believe Barron both filed for arbitration that year as well. But they signed 2 years each before their hearings got to take place. And that's what people want. Nobody wants to sit there and have their bosses explain why they're worth less than they should be. Because even in the NHL, right, it's not like they pick one or the other number. They'll pick a contract kind of between what each party is saying. So the player's agent will go in there and be like, here's why he's worth this number. And it'll be a number worth way more than you'd actually expect to sign. And on the other side of it, you'd have Kevin Cheveldayoff and company being like, well, actually, not only is he not worth that, he's worth way less than probably what you would expect to sign him at. And that's no fun for anybody. I don't think that players enjoy it. And especially in a situation like this, where I'm expecting contracts to get signed and perhaps some term to it, players generally enjoying their time in Winnipeg. I think everybody just doesn't want to do that. It will create a deadline, and that's kind of nice because then they'll get their work done.
Yeah, and we'll have the roster heading into camp. One player who won't be on this year's roster, who was on last year's, Nikolai Ehlers. We've talked so much about his departure to Carolina. You were on the conference call. What did you make of his comments go. You got a dog. You got a dog there. Okay.
I'm dog sitting this week.
Your dog sitting. Perfect. I know the chat is going to be fired up for that one. What did you make of Nikolai Ehlers' comments, and did he do anything to change the narrative that we've made up in our heads of why he left?
Yeah, I think he did a good job speaking for himself. Like the thing that he made it clear on that call was, hey, I told Winnipeg they didn't do anything wrong. I needed a fresh start. I wanted to challenge myself in a new place, do a new thing. But Winnipeg was very important to me. And then you saw him release that letter that he penned to Jets fans, to the organization, to everybody else that expressed his caring for this place and the people in it. And I think he handled that perfectly. I think that, there are reasons why a player might want to go to other places. And, if he has anything beyond that he wants to keep to himself, that's his right to do so. He's a sentimental guy who's spent 10 years playing for the Winnipeg Jets and really enjoying that process by and large. So good on him. Like, good on him for making that the interpretation from everything that, hey, I loved it there. And that's a great takeaway.
On a team that has trouble, attracting free agents, I don't think they've had a trouble, retaining their own, as we've seen. But was it a mistake for them to get to the point where he could walk and not receive any assets back?
Well, I mean, depends on what time you want to make that decision, I guess, because without Ehlers on the point, making a pass to Kyle Connor, making a pass to Cole Perfetti, you don't get through Game 7. So without him on the roster, obviously it's a different series. It would have its own reality to it. I'm not saying that was the only play that he would have impacted or replacements or whatever else, right? But the reality that we live in, he made a play that got Winnipeg through Game 7. And that was an enormous thing for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think it's a nice storyline to end his Winnipeg Jets career with, too, because there had been playoff struggles, because he hadn't produced a lot of points. For him to score 5 goals and 2 assists in, I think, the 8 games that he played, including making that pass that led to it all. Geez, it's tough to have a ton of regret for that from the Winnipeg Jets point of view. But at the same time, if you want to go pure raw assets, okay, well, we should have got something back for him, should have gotten a first-round pick, should have got something. I understand if people feel that way. I'm not going to lean too heavily into it. The one thing that I'll suggest is that maybe, because, for example, last summer when the Carolina Hurricanes realized they didn't have the cap space to sign Jake Gensel, I think they got a 3rd-round pick for his rights, and then he was able to sign elsewhere in Tampa Bay, right? So that's a play, maybe not a third, maybe something else. That's a play that struck me as that would be available to the Winnipeg Jets with respect to Nikolai Ehlers. I don't know if they thought they had a chance to sign him all the way up until July 1st and otherwise. I don't think that they thought that. And if that's the case, then I think it's a miss not to have gotten something. And then, Remo, just as I say all of that, I think part of that is also, well, Ehlers was hearing out multiple teams. So Winnipeg might not have been so confident that, okay, we're going to get an asset from Carolina, because he's also listening to Washington and Colorado and whomever else.
Yeah, I think they were pot committed on him this year, but I guess if you were looking at, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe a trade, well, there were discussions a couple years ago, maybe they would, but I think they're happy with the way that his 10 years with the Jets certainly worked out, as you mentioned, being part of the play that tied the game in Game 7 against St. Louis. From players leaving to players coming, I mean, what stood out to you from the Jonathan Taves, the big press conference there, when you have the sports media and the news media coming together for one event?
Yeah, that was one of my biggest takeaways, was just how much media coverage there was. And I think there were more gathered media there than there was for Game 7 against St. Louis, which was in Winnipeg, right? And when you have Wob Canoe and why am I blanking on her? Scott Gillingham?
Yeah, he was just on Jeopardy. He's just on Jeopardy, Scott Gillingham. They may reference his name in a clue.
So, I mean, he's clearly having a moment. Good for him in terms of that, I suppose. But they had never been to any player announcement before. It's, Winnipeg signs Gustav Nyquist and has a conference call. You don't see Wab Canoe and Scott Gillingham as participants in that sort of thing. So that, I think, helped convey not just their attendance, but the sheer volume of media that then covered them. The fact that the Jets also had run a quick contest and some season seat holders were able to not participate, but be there in the press conference when he was announced. It was a much bigger event than any of its kind before. So I was struck by that. It's clearly a homecoming that the Jets want to push, and a lot of people in Winnipeg believe in. So that was my takeaway. And I was seated right behind his parents. So as Jonathan Taves was talking, sort of I had the silhouette of it like the back of his mom's head. And he got to say, "Hi, Mom," in the middle of a press conference. And that's a very sweet moment as well. So, what he does on the ice, we'll see. But he really got to have a celebratory day.
Certainly was celebratory. But from off ice to on ice, what are the reasonable expectations for Taves at this point? And where do you see him slotting into the lineup?
Yeah, I see him as a middle six center, and I don't know how, if he becomes a second line center for Winnipeg, will he be a great second line center or below average at this point? I'm not sure. I think keeping an open mind about what he's capable of is a good idea, because this is a player speed was part of his game, right? He was a plus skater for a lot of years, and long COVID, the immune system response, all that sort of stuff, the time away from the game, all of his health issues don't take away from the fact that he's 37 years old. And players lose explosiveness in their push, 34, 35. That starts to happen. I think that he will be slower than we remember him. I also think that he will maintain his elite hockey IQ and his read of the game. I think that his work ethic will be there. I think that he's not going to cheat a back check to the ability that he has. And I think that he'll make smart reads in all three zones in terms of the decisions that he makes. So a lot of the foundational stuff that makes a good hockey player, or who makes a player a coach's favorite type of player, I think Jonathan Taves will be that. And then for me, it's just what level of dynamism will he have? How much speed and pop and pace will he have? And that's where I'm like, okay, that at 37 years old, I'm not sure if it's reasonable to expect a 2C out of that. And then all of that said, we just saw the playoffs. A lot of these older NHL players can get a heck of a game together when everything's on the line. And that would be a best case scenario for Taves too.
Yeah, we'll be talking all summer, but we'll see it on the ice here in September. And as far as free agency goes, you gave the Jets a B. How much did that outcome, or how much did that grade, based on Nikolai Ehlers staying or going?
Yeah, I guess I've been assuming his departure for so long that in the moment of being asked to grade things, I wasn't, the fact that Winnipeg didn't sign him to a 6-year, $8.5 million deal like the Carolina Hurricanes did was not the biggest sway for me, to be honest. Taves, if he works out great, that grade could improve. If he works out really poorly, that grade would go down. Mostly for me, it's a middling, decent grade because they did acquire some pieces. They are recognizing their win now situation. They're not elite pieces. They're not superstar pieces, depending on what happens. But there's also a lot of one-year deals and no albatrosses. No, even in the case where they're paying Taves $7 million, it means they've won the Stanley Cup, or $5 million, it means they've made the playoffs. So there are, and it's only a one-year deal at that. So it's not as though this is going to, any of their UFA spending will hamstring them for, years to come. So decent there. They did get some players that will fill roles, and you can't call it spectacular because they didn't retain Ehlers, and, the players that they signed do have question marks available to them.
Yes, and looking at the composition of the roster, you wrote that Winnipeg might be a bit older and slower. You've got Taves and Gus Nyquist. Do you have concern about that, and that they might struggle to create off the rush without, losing a guy like Nikolai Ehlers?
Yeah, I really do actually. So one of the changes to the way the Jets will play hockey, I think, I cannot imagine them looking the same this year as they did last, because they will be missing speed and some important players will be slower. And that doesn't mean they're not capable of helping in various ways, but the foot speed will change, especially if they, especially down the middle, I would say. If Gabriel Velarde and Cole Perfetti grow into bigger roles, their foot speed is not elite either. So there's a lot of, even on the players that are going to take bigger roles based on their relative youth, they're not burners. And so what I think Winnipeg's really going to have to do is double down on their protecting the middle of the ice between the dots. I think they're going to have to take advantage of the veterans that they have to play a really smart, solid structural game in their own zone. And the good news is they've done a lot of that in these last couple of years. They've had a tremendous amount of success. And so I think that they should be able to replicate a lot of their defensive quality. It's just that one pass and you're gone type of offense that Ehlers can help create and other players could help create. You're losing that. That's just a fact. And so they're going to have to be a little bit more concerted. They're going to have to get more offense off of in zone time. And, you might see them score a few less goals this year, even if they're a very good team all over again.
Yeah, with Connor Hellebuck, and they did play pretty solid defense last year, winning the second straight Jennings Trophy. I'm interested to see how they adapt without Nikolai Ehlers. You think, Gustav Nyquist, he had 70-plus points 2 years ago. Any chance that he would be able to replicate something like that with the Winnipeg Jets in whatever role he's going to play this season?
I don't see it, to be honest. But even, 28 or 29 points he got last year, he had a horrid on-ice shooting percentage. His team finished barely any of the shots that they created, even when he had 50% or close to it in terms of the flow of play. There was just no finishing when he was on the ice. And so I think he can be better than that. I think you might push for a 35, 40, 45-point season out of him, depending on how things go, depending on how much special teams he gets, all of that. He can help more than it looks like based on last year's stat line. I think that if he gets anywhere close to, I don't believe in a 70-point player. I don't believe in a 60-point player coming off of him at this stage. I think that's just far too much to ask for. But Remo, I got to tell you, it's been funny. I've reached out to people who've covered him recently who tell me, well, geez, he's one of the worst 5-on-5 players in the NHL right now. And players who covered him as recently as a couple years ago who think, geez, what a crafty, smart, creative player. He can help. And I think a lot of that really just comes from how bad last season bounced for him.
Yeah, that's one player we're interested to watch when training camp comes along. And we talk about team speed. Kevin Cheveldayoff, unprompted, mentioned Brad Lambert's name, but not him specifically. Is there a young player on the Jets that you think has a chance, or which young player has the best chance to break through and make an impact on the lineup the way that it sits right now?
Yeah, there's two ways I go with that, and it might not be exactly what you're asking, but Cole Perfetti is probably first in line to, he's 23 and he's been on the roster for some years now, but he would be first in line to get those Ehlers power play 1 minutes. And so I think if you're looking for a player, he scored 50 points last year. He played a much more consistent year. He was engaging in those physical battles and just swatting sticks out of the way on the wall and getting the pucks first, even though he was smaller. A lot of good things happened for him. Now with power play 1 time, I think that's a player who can give more and who should take the next step in his career. But if the question's about who's going to make the team, gosh, you hope for a spectacular special camp from Lambert. I might like Nikita Chibrikov in terms of the two-way tenacity that he plays with. But if I'm being honest, the Jets have a lot of veteran players. And even before you get to Tanner Pearson and Cole Koepke, you're 11 players deep if Lowry's healthy. So there's not a lot of room up front. I think it would take a spectacular camp from a younger player to carve out a spot this September.
Yeah, I would agree there. And even on defense, Murat, they've got 7 guys signed right now. Plus, you have to sign Dylan Samberg. And then you still have Ville Heinola. and Elias Salamonson. Cale Clegg they signed. Maybe he could be in the mix. You think this is what they're going to go with, or could we see some movement there on defense? We did see a trade. We did see a trade today with sometimes Edmonton making a deal today. But what do you think about the Jets? I guess group of players that they have so many on defense for the 6 spots.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like, there is a lens through which Winnipeg can do what it's always done and arrive at training camp with maybe one too many defenders. And if everybody's healthy, boom, they've got a quote unquote good problem. They end up waiving somebody. They've lost good players that way before. Declan Chisholm, probably a quality third pairing defenseman right now. Jonathan Kovacevic, quality top 4 defenseman. It hasn't always been great in hindsight, but having too many defensemen is better than not having enough. And there have been years where, like Hayden Fleury last year, Logan Stanley, Ville Heinola each have various bumps and that ankle infection. So now Hayden Fleury is an everyday player, and by certain parts of the season, he's a top 4 player. So what we know today isn't necessarily what they'll know in September in terms of how many spots there are. That's why I tend to think that Cheveldayoff will keep as many D as possible, even if it seems like there's too much. At the same time, there are an awful lot of them. And I think he did sort of indicate, when we spoke to him at the Taves press conference, that things might not be completely settled. And when I talk to people around the league, it does seem like more trades will happen later this summer than in past years. So maybe. That's all I can say. Because if you're trading Ville Heinola or Logan Stanley or whomever, you're not getting a ton back, right? This isn't a blockbuster. They're probably not having teams call about these players every single day. It's just kind of a, hey, do you have a fit here, there, or the other place sort of thing. And so I guess I'm expecting them to have a lot of D at September's camp.
Yeah, we mentioned players leaving. No one mentions when Lucas Spiza got claimed on waivers, and Paul Maurice was, I don't want to say livid, but I remember he referenced that player being claimed that year quite a bit. And right, we had Jets development camp last week. You were out there. Did you learn anything this year about the players at development camp?
Let me see. I'm going to say Klingzel, for his confidence, was kind of a fun one to talk to. Like joking about, or Kevin Cheveldayoff telling us that Klingzel joked that, hey, I'm 180 pounds and 6'6" or something to that effect, as an undersized winger. He also spoke to just his confidence making plays with the puck and all that sort of stuff. So he had a bit of swagger to him. That was fun to see. Probably my biggest takeaway, because I'm not doing a ton of evaluation at camps like this, is just Sasha Boumediene is just a phenomenal skater, just 10 feet ahead of competition at different times. And that's kind of fun to see. Winnipeg has drafted a lot of these puck moving defensemen, and a lot of the times they're just small enough or just slow enough that you might squint and say, hey, they might not work out in the NHL. Well, he's not small and he's not slow, and he moves the puck really well. So Sasha Boumediene immediately becomes a really interesting prospect for me. Yeah,
very interesting there. And I guess it's the summer now. Murat, what's going on with you here? As we had the summer, we've been talking about Winnipeg or Manitoba things in the summer. You're getting out to golf, camping, country fest. We got the concert tonight, folk festival this weekend. So many things. What's on your plate here for the summer as the hockey season winds down and the summer heats up?
Yeah, I'll tell you that tomorrow night I'll be at Folk Fest, and I'll be taking in the Fred Penner concert, to be sure. Haley will be singing at, I can't remember how I'm framed. I don't know if I'm pointing to a Haley picture, but she's behind me somewhere. She'll be singing on stage with her dad. And I know that they've got a couple other shops throughout the weekend. So I think I'll be at Folk Fest quite a bit. You also met Oso earlier. That's one of my good buddies' dogs. So we'll be looking after him and trying to go play outside, maybe jump in a lake. This is the payoff, right? This is the part of Manitoba summers where everything's happening, and I absolutely love it.
I do enjoy, this room that you're in, and you did the Ehlers conference call. I'm just going to zoom in. I do get a kick out of you doing this this interview with this picture of you behind. I don't know what the term of that is. Meta? Is that what that is? Is that what that is? Where it's like you in front of a still picture of you doing this conversation. But I did enjoy that. And Murat, as July 1, shaked out, what stood out to you from this year's free agency moves? I think the Jets, you know how it's going to be for them, with the 1-year deals. I thought, they did well with what is available to them, but there's some big dollars and big contracts handed out. Do you have a clear-cut, winner or loser, just team who stood out to you?
I mean, I point to Florida a lot when we talk about a winner, and it's just because they fit everybody. And I remember when Bill Zito was talking and I say talking, I wasn't there, but I was reading Pierre LeBrun writing at The Athletic about Bill Zito saying, hey, actually, I think we probably can sign everybody with Ekblad and Marchand and Sam Bennett as well. And everybody was kind of going, okay, good luck with that. Bennett's going to get 10 from Toronto or something like that. And lo and behold, Florida did fit everybody in. I don't know if I love the term on that Brad Marchand deal. I don't know how long he's going to be able to play at the level that he did. But at the same time, that team's going to be annoying to play against and good for a really long time. So credit to them. I was a little bit surprised by the Mikael Granlund above $7 million deal. That one surprised me a little bit. Tanner Jeannot in Boston. I knew that they wanted a bit of truculence, and I thought that might be where Mangiapane ended up. But for Jeannot to get as much as he did surprised me. I think the most interesting thing, though, I know that this is a look around the league, but just the way Nikolai Ehlers sat back, took his time, and watched things play out as he became the top free agent on the list, right? Like Marner traded and signed, and all of a sudden by July 1 or not too far into it, Ehlers was by far and away the number one guy. And in a situation like that, you usually see somebody sign for way too much money right early on that afternoon. And so he went through his decision-making process. He was on the phone with Rod Brindamore and all that sort of stuff, Freddie Anderson, all those process things. For me, I kind of like the inside baseball of that, just the, what conversations are they having and what actually goes into a decision like that. I found that pretty interesting.
I did ask the chat last week, we hand out the off-season champions banner every year. I think we gave it to the Jets when they acquired Schmidt and Dillon that summer. The Stars have got it in the past. This was years ago. And Nashville was the off-season champion last year. It never really works out how you think it would. But I asked the chat, and I don't know if we've ever given it to a team that's just re-signed their own guys. But Florida was, as you mentioned, the clear winner because no one thought they would be able to keep those guys. And they just won the Stanley Cup. And they kept, so often in the salary cap era, you see cup winners, oh, well, this guy's an RFA. He's getting a raise. All these guys are free agents. You can't keep them. Even like last year, who they lose? You thought it was Brandon Montour was a big one for them. But, hey, they traded for Seth Jones. And, again, 3 cups in a row for them. It's just an unbelievable run. So we gave them the offseason champion banner just from re-signing their own guys. It's pretty remarkable what they've been able to do.
Yeah, it's hard because every time you look back, it's somebody spent way too much money, right? We get excited, and even when we know we shouldn't, we get so excited. And I don't know if you can pick apart the Panthers and be like, well, hey, they gave too much term to Marchand, like I just said. They're returning their Stanley Cup champion roster, and it wasn't some kind of fluke run. They bullied teams on their way. They really were too much for their opponents to handle, and they did it last year too. So it's hard not to believe in them. One of the interesting things for me is when they added Brad Marchand, you heard guys like Paul Maurice saying, well, it's important to bring in fresh blood, keep things fresh, all that sort of stuff. I don't know if they'll have a ton of room to make more moves like that over the course of this season to keep it going. I suppose they will try. For me, that team is relevant and good as long as Matthew Tkachuk is at his best. And at 27 years old, they've got a couple more years left to this run. So I think keeping the Stanley Cup back-to-back champions and to the finals 3 years in a row, keeping that team together probably is going to go down as a really effective bit of work. And maybe Bill Zito will finally win GM of the year, because for some reason we keep giving it to Jim Nill.
I was, if you want to give it to Jim Nill for the Rantanen trade, I'm can listen to that, but he should not have won it last season. It was kind of like a cumulative award. They were saying, oh, well, he drafted Jason Robertson and all those guys, 28, whatever year it was. They had Robertson, Ottinger, and Heiskanen around the same year. That's what they gave it to him for. He didn't do anything last year. They already had a good team. This year he made the big Rantanen move, so I can understand maybe giving it to him once, but I'll agree with you. I didn't think he should have won last year. He never did anything. All the moves were done way before the year. So when you say GM of the year, often a lot of the moves are done years before, leading up to when it all comes together to win. So Bill Zito, look at, you can talk about, taxes and all that, but, plucking Gustav Forsling off waivers or trading Sam Bennett for a draft pick, or Sam Reinhart for a draft pick. Those are trades that anyone, signing Carter Verhaeghe and him breaking it. Those are moves anyone could have made, but he had the foresight to go out and acquire those players. And now they have everyone locked up until at least a number of guys to 20, 30 and beyond. So they're well positioned going forward.
Yeah, 100%. And it's weird. It does feel like a lifetime achievement award sometimes, not lifetime, but recent seasons, cumulative achievement, that sort of thing. And that, I guess, I do understand that, because a team doesn't get built in a year. But then, depending on how hard you want to lean into it, I don't know if it's because he's the team that I cover, but Kevin Cheveldayoff, to do what he's done in Winnipeg over the last 3 years, being one of the most winning teams in the regular season in the NHL, even though there's 80-something players with full no-move clauses and another 164 players or so, these are numbers from Puckpedia, that have some level of no-trade clause to them, and how many people choose Winnipeg. To build a President's Team trophy inch by inch, with so much of the league not signing in Winnipeg at free agency or declining trades to them or what have you, it's at some point, if it is a cumulative lifetime achievement award, making Winnipeg this close to good in that economy probably earns him some praise as well, or should. And I know he came close, he got votes, all that sort of stuff, but at some point you might see him win.
Yeah, I thought he should have won last year for the Scheifele-Hellebuyck signings. We had the Niederreiter trade signing, Nemestikov, signing and trade. I know some of those are in different parts of seasons. But I thought, the moves that he made, he was certainly deserving. And if you're considering it a lifetime achievement award or, a year period, I think some people raised their eyebrows that he was nominated this year, but they were in the President's Trophy, and it seems to be whatever definition you want, GM of the year, but the work is being done. You're giving it to the GM of one of the top teams while they've done all the work in the couple years prior. Murat, it's been great having you on the show. But you want to tease what you have coming out tomorrow in The Athletic? Something different? You mentioned off the start. I'll have to put my notifications on your subscription.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit different than what I normally write, but I've had the chance to talk to Eric Tulsky at length, and I've had a chance to talk to Rod Brindamore. I've had a chance to talk to some of the people that Nikolai Ehlers spoke to on his way to making his final decision, and I want to go inside that process. So that's what's coming out tomorrow. Ooh. Eric Tulsky getting the call from Nikolai Ehlers' agent at just after 3:00 in the afternoon on July 3rd, and nearly kicking over his laptop as he's sitting on the recliner at the home office. I kind of want to get into all the nitty-gritty of that and tell that story.
I'm interested to hear that. I know there's some people in chat who don't want to hear about him anymore because of the pain of him leaving, or saying he doesn't want to play here. But I do think all of that is very interesting. And I think in hockey, you do see players sign, the free agency opens, everyone signs right away. I think in other sports like baseball, players do wait, and it doesn't all happen in one shot. And there are a couple of quotes from him that stood out to me on the conference call where I think Mike asked him if he talked to Nino Niederreiter, who had played in Carolina, and he goes, "Man, you don't want to know how many people I've talked to." And it seemed like he truly did agonize over the decision. As you mentioned, a number of teams interested, but ultimately landed on Carolina for what Eric Tulsky said, less money than he could have got elsewhere. So I'm very interested to seeing what, you talk to Rod and Eric Tulsky, who might be the most interesting GM in the league. And Carolina is certainly trying to get over that hump in the East. And, maybe Ehlers is the guy that helps them do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're betting 8.5 times 6 on.
Yeah, 51 mil. Well, Murat, it's been great having you on the show. Check out his work in The Athletic and follow him on X and the other social medias, WPG Murat. Hope to keep in touch throughout the summer, but you'll keep us posted with everything that you've got going on there at The Athletic. Thanks again for taking the time to join me here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Perfect. There he is, Murat Ates of The Athletic. What a conversation that was, hitting all the Jets topics of the week: Taves, Ehlers, development camp, free agency, rosters, and even a little around the league discussion where we continue to praise the Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. We're going to switch gears from hockey after this, but first up, here's Huss.
Of course, those 19s are flying off the shelves at Royal Sports right now. Your number one headquarters for all your Jets gear and Blue Bomber gear, with tons of exclusives from New Era that you won't find anywhere else. But of course, summer's here right now. Soccer, softball, tennis, tons of bikes, running, and of course that huge Yeti cooler section for all of you campers that you definitely want to check out. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And we will be getting a tent sale coming out after the Labor Day weekend at the end of summer as well. Bomber game tonight, 8 p.m. No better place to get together with the gang to watch the blue and gold than your local Boston Pizza. Brand new summer menu out right now. And of course, those ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, nothing better to go with Blue Bomber football than the great taste of BP. Staying at home, you can order it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's give a big cheers to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug, before we bring in Brandon.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Yes, Little Brown Jug. I purchased their summer mixer pack. It's got 4 of their best beers. That's a good one if you're at the tap room, or I picked it up at the LC near me. Great event happening right now in Winnipeg. We've talked about all the great things to do. The Winnipeg National Bank Challenger, presented by M Builds. It started on July 6th. It goes until the 13th at the National Bank Tennis Manitoba Hub in West St. Paul. These are, some of the top players on, just below the highest level of tennis, and plays happening every day at 11 a.m. Only $25 admission gets you in all day. You can get tickets online or at the event, and I want to learn more about this. I'm pleased to be joined by the director of the tournament, Mark Arndt. Mark, how's it going here a couple days into the tournament?
Yeah, it's been an adventure. It's been a challenge. I guess that's why they call it a challenger. But yeah, with the weather, I mean, we had a Monday where we got rained out, so put us behind schedule a bit. So we're playing catch up these last 2 days. Thankfully, the weather is cooperating right now, and I'm hoping by mid-afternoon tomorrow, we should be all caught up and back on schedule. So, but it's been great so far. It's been great seeing all the players arrive. We've got 17 countries represented this year, and all professional players coming from Wimbledon. If they lose first, second round, or in the qualies, they fly over here, hop on a flight, jump over the pond, as they say, and come to Winnipeg and start the preparations for the hardcourt season, starting with Winnipeg. So And the hardcourt season ends in New York at the U.S. Open, so a lot of these players are playing for points to get into the U.S. Open, and it's been a fantastic few days so far.
Yesterday I was talking about, Winnipeg summer events, and as far as sporting events, we always talk about the Bombers, Gold Eyes, Manitoba Open, but I mean, you're into your 13th year here with the Challenger. This has really become a staple of the summer, and now the third year at the new home at the National Bank Tennis Manitoba Hub. Can you talk about the tournament, how it started and the growth that you've seen here now in its 13th year?
Yeah, you know what? Humble beginnings, as they say. So approached Tennis Canada way back when, back in 2011, after I saw that Vasek Pospisil, which was he was a staple on the Canadian tennis scene, and he was playing in Saskatoon in a tournament in Saskatoon. So immediately I'm like, we're not losing to the Rough Riders, and we're not losing in tennis as well, as far as tournaments are concerned and having marquee players. So I knew I had to get after it and wanted to bring a tournament here to Winnipeg. So we started as a $25,000 futures at the time, and grew. Now we're a $100,000 prize money event, and we've seen so many awesome players. I'll just give you an example. Our winner last year from France, Benjamin Bonzi, he won our tournament, of course, and then this year, first round at Wimbledon, he beat Daniil Medvedev, who's number 4 in the world, I believe, beat him first round Wimbledon. So I mean, that's the level that we get. I mean, people that ask, like, how good is the tennis? Is it a Moose level AHL, or what is it? How can you let us know what it is? And I'll just say, listen, I'll compare it to the NHL. I mean, we've got the teams that we've got times, say, 20, 25 players per team. So we've got the best 700 players playing in the NHL. In our tournament, our players are ranked from 70 to about 250 in the world. So we've got basically some first liners and second liners, if they're NHL players, playing here in Winnipeg. So it's a pretty it's pretty cool for our community to have this, our tennis community, and Manitoba in general. I mean, we're out in West St. Paul at the new tennis hub. Started at a local club in Winnipeg, but outgrew that venue, and the ATP actually flew in from Monte Carlo to tell us, listen, you know what, you've outgrown this event. We've got guys coming from Wimbledon here. We can't be having them in porta potties and changing in wedding tents is what we're doing, and we need to have a proper solid venue. So the conversation started back in 2015, 2016 with the West St. Paul municipality, and pleaded my case and presented a good argument, I guess, and then they liked what they saw. They donated the land, the municipality did, and here we are how many years later at a brand new facility that's got lots of room to grow as the tournament grows.
That's pretty awesome to see. We talk so much, again, Manitoba, and we just saw JJ Spaun win the U.S. Open. He was here 10 years ago, and, players like Daniil Medvedev coming through. You talking like hockey terms here on this show. First-line players, 75th ranked in the world. For fans coming down to the event, what can they expect to see at this brand new facility? And it's third year now. It's pretty exciting stuff right there. You mentioned going from changing in wedding tents and porta potties to what it is now.
Yeah, to a proper facility, and really utilizing their community center. Community centers generally in the summertime are not used as often, obviously, as wintertime with the hockey rinks and such. And so, and that's what I believe the municipality liked that we were going to make use out of that facility. It was gently used. I think it was 10 years old at the time when we came in with the tennis, and we're using their change rooms, their hockey change rooms for the players. We're using the gymnasium as an actual workout gym, warm-up area for the players. And then our food supplier, Calabria Market, they came in and offering amazing food for the players. Number one, all the protein and carbs for players, and then for fans alike. I mean, fans can can order off their menu. So there's something for everyone. I mean, you walk into the facility and we have a long path that walks to the courts. And it was just really cool to hear this year's number one player from Belgium. His last name is Block, and he basically said, you know what, his name is Alexander Block, and he just said, I love this venue. I love the intimacy of the venue, and I love playing here so far. The courts are great, the facility is great, and the people are amazing as well. So That was the nice thing, when we say we're friendly Manitoba and all that, when you hear a world-class player complimenting our people, it says a lot for our community.
So, Mark, for you as the tournament director, what do you just put your feet up and all the work's done, or what goes into for you putting on this event?
Man, I wish it was that easy. The load and like the preparation beforehand, obviously trying to get sponsors and then setting up the venue, because we tear down the venue after the tournament's over, and then our community uses it for Manitoba sanctioned events and then recreational play, lessons and all of that. But to get it to ATP standards, and for those that don't know, the ATP is the NHL of tennis. ATP standards are up here, and we have to bring the facility to that, including putting up additional windscreens and camera towers. We've got 5 cameras per match court doing live streaming, player analysis, and things like that. So as soon as the tournament finishes on Sunday, we get to work and tear down the facility, tear down the venue, and bring it back to local playing standards. And but it is a build up to the tournament, and now in tournament you're putting out fires. I mean, there's players misbehaving and getting code violations you got to deal with, and those are entertaining. I like seeing that. And I mean, the rain itself, I mean, Monday was it was a total wipeout, but I mean, we're sitting on ready with all of our squeegees and our leaf blowers waiting to dry the court, and as soon as it stops raining, we get everybody out there and start drying the court, and it starts raining again. So all that work for nothing. So we're up early in the morning. We stay up late at night, and but you know what? It's worthwhile in the end, just seeing how many people this tournament affects, including ball kids, volunteers, coaches, you name it. It hits the point on so many levels.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Going from back from the desk to leaf blowers and squeegees on the court, and mentioned some players. It's got to be pretty cool for the tournament to have a player like Vasek Pospisil and his participation, and Alexei Galarno, who you've had on this program, back for his 6th straight season. What does it mean to have support from Canadian players?
Well, it's a testament to the type of tournament we put on, because if they keep on returning, that means we're doing something right. And so that we're proud of that they do come back. We kind of don't want them coming back, because that means if they don't come back, they're climbing up the ranks and playing in tournaments where they're that are higher level. So I always say, when I part with the players, say thanks for coming. I want to see you, but I kind of don't want to see you, because if I don't, that means you're up there, and we'll be watching you strictly on the top tier events on TV. But it's it is fantastic to have these players back, and we get feedback from them, good, bad, and ugly. We learn from that feedback. There's things we can always improve on, and we try to elevate each year. Each year has to be better than the previous year, and you have to listen to the players and the coaches who do the most, watching, they're observing, and travel the world. They see every venue in the world, and I always pick their brain and ask them to give me a critique, or what can we do better, what can we improve on, and learn from it for the next year.
And you mentioned a player like Alexander Block and Medvedev, Jack Draper's been here as well. Are there any other players to watch at this year's tournament as the championship matches this weekend?
Yeah, so Block is the favorite right now as a number 1 seed, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Liam Draxel, our Canadian, does. He's the number 2 seed. He's upped his game since last year, and I'm really anxious to see how it turns out for him, and if they collide in the final, I think it will be an epic final. But there's so many good players along the way. I mean, so many players that are just on the cusp of doing great things and breaking into the top 50, top 20 in the world. And I mean, it's like you said, Jack Draper, he was here, he was outside the top 50, and now he's number 5 or 4 in the world and doing what he's doing. So when I tell people, guys like this, or Alexander Zverev from Germany, he was here. And to see these top tenors that are on the top stage, it's pretty fantastic. So I really urge people to come out and see. I mean, $25 for a day pass from 11 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night. You get to watch all the tennis you want on multiple courts. You can travel from court to court, and it's just rush seating basically, and it's great value. Kids 14 and under are free. So I'd urge people to come and check it out, at least, even if you're not a tennis fan. I mean, to see it on TV is one thing, when you see it in person and live, and you just see how the I guess the aggressiveness and just the violence of the players, of how they hit the ball, and to see it up close, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, $25 seems like pretty good value. Gets you in all day. Tennis Manitoba, or so National Bank Tennis Manitoba hub at West St. Paul. Mark, and it's amazing, you were the director of Tennis Manitoba. You've moved on to pickleball, but still holding your position as director of this. Must be very exciting for you to be involved, still be involved in such a great event that you've helped grow for so many years in Winnipeg.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that.
Well, Mark, thanks for the time, and hope good luck with the rest of the week. Hopefully we can connect again in the future.
Hope so. Thanks for having me. Take care.
There he is, Mark Arndt with the Winnipeg National Bank Challenger. You see up-and-coming tennis stars here in Winnipeg, July 6th to 13th. The finals are this weekend, so it seems like a great way to go see some of tomorrow's tennis stars. Today we mentioned Jack Draper, Daniil Medvedev, some top 10 players now getting their start here at the Challenger. It's been growing every year. So thanks to Mark, who's come on with us a couple times throughout the years to talk about it. Golf as well. We do have the Manitoba Open coming up August 21 to 25 at Breezy Bend. And they are looking for people for the Pro-Am tournament. Pro-Am, they're looking for players, morning, afternoon tee times, 2 meals, 18 holes with 2 PGA Tour Americas players, unlimited on-course beverages. It is $4,000 for a team of 4. All players will receive a tailor-made Spider putter. That's pretty cool as well, in support of the True North Youth Foundation. So that's at manitobaopen.com. Click on Pro-Am, and all of the golf reports here brought to you by Breezy Bend, home of this year's Manitoba Open. I just mentioned, thinking about making Breezy your long-term home? Contact Corey Johnson at the clubhouse or visit breezybend.ca for more info and to get on the waiting list. And Winnipeg Goldeyes are home this week. Talked with Trevor Curl yesterday. Some great Goldeyes talk. Hey, great chance to get out to the ballpark. Beautiful night tonight. Sioux Falls in town, and then Kansas City this weekend. Tomorrow's game is the Shirt Off Our Backs game, and Friday night fireworks. Tickets 204-982 base. And again, great time last month at our gathering in the left field patio. What a place to host your next large gathering. Again, had a great time out there at the ballpark. What a beautiful night. Hopefully this great weather continues. And Assiniboia Downs live racing last night, tonight, Tuesday, Wednesdays this year, and Select Mondays. Great time to get out to the Downs. VLTs, great dining options, free admission, free parking. And if you're planning on going, make a reservation in the clubhouse dining room and enjoy the world famous prime rib buffet and make a night of it. And check them out on YouTube. I love following along on YouTube. Kurt, Stretch, giving you their picks. Hustler and I have ours here. All of mine yesterday did not win. We're keeping going. I'm trying to catch up to Huss, taking maybe some less conservative picks maybe than normal, but Hustler will be back making picks. I did make some tonight, and I'll have to demand that he has to double his entry if he's not making picks while he's at Aikens Lake. I'll be making my picks in a sec, but time to get to fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First. Where's my fans? Fan feed, brought to you, your best option for buying and selling tickets in Winnipeg with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Certainly the best place if you have a pair of extra seats. If you want to sell them, I can tell you as someone who's used Fans First to buy and sell tickets. So easy, so user-friendly, great customer service, and you're getting paid the next day right after the game. They're pretty busy for jet season, but Fans First, you can buy and sell Blue Bombers tickets, and a great place to do that. So let's get to some messages. We're talking about the Jets, the offseason, boring. Sean Monahan, just on Kevin Shoveldayoff, says Chevy gets to enter the race, but is starting 100 meters behind everyone else at the start. And Rob Mahoney also giving Winnipeg Jets GM Kevin Shoveldayoff credit, saying he built the organization without ever tanking. Chevy, so underrated. And I said he should have been the Jim Gregory GM of the Year award winner last year instead of Jim Nill. Just talking about arbitration, Julien Labossiere says, I would be shocked if Sandberg actually reaches the arbor date, whatever it ends up being. And, it's just part of the procedure, filing for arbitration. We anticipate long-term deals. Maybe not long-term, but deals for Sandberg, Velarde, and Barron to come together quickly and easily. And we'll be here talking about it when it happens and just talking about all the signings. Dan Jets fan says, I'd say there are too many vet players. How are the rookies and younger players supposed to move up the ranks? We will have to see how that shakes out in training camp. Assiniboia Downs picks tonight. I've got my selections in race 1. These are two of my all-time favorite horses at the Downs, McCaig and Del Vecchio. These are veteran horses. McCaig was like my first winner I ever bet on. So I did an exacta 1-2 in race 1. Very strong horses there. Race 3, I did a trifecta box. 3, 5, 7, Shemayim. Wrong direction and under budget. So I've got two of the AI smart picks there and a long shot. Hopefully that long shot under budget can squeak in there and increase the payout. Race 6, I got a 1-4 exacta. Lemon Twist is the favorite with a longer shot. Conspiracy Theorist. And my final pick in race 8, I've got a 4-8 exacta box, Cavour and Mary Who. So Mary Who is the favorite in the program selection and a bit of a longer shot. That's the formula I'm going with today. Hopefully it pays off and I can catch up to Hustler. Cool Bet Lines, we'll be talking with Pat or Jake tomorrow about some golf and baseball as well. We've got the Blue Jays. They're down to the White Sox in the 6th inning. You know what that means? Great opportunity for live betting. Plus 215 right now. I might actually do that. Do that here on my phone. They don't have an app, but their website very mobile friendly. The Blue Jays looking to keep that win streak alive against a team like the White Sox, who are not good. CFL this week. Oh, let me just put that in again. Very, very easy. CFL this week. Saskatchewan, they are -5 favorites against Calgary at home. And Hamilton -5 at home against Ottawa. Nice East battle. Some all divisional matchups this week. And the final one there, BC -3 on the road in Edmonton, who just had their first win. And I know some users here jumped on BC. And if you want more CFL discussion, well, check out CFL 110 here on YouTube or on the podcast feed. Jeff and I went through all the top storylines of last week and the games coming into this week. And Jeff berated me for fence sitting and not making any picks. So you're going to want to tune in for that, if anything. It is the Scottish Open. Who's the favorite in the Scottish Open? Because the British Open, is next week, and Scotty Scheffler is the favorite, 4-1. Rory McIlroy is up there, is plus 750. Tommy Fleetwood, 18-1. Xander Schauffele, 20-1. Morikawa is in there, 22. We got Victor Hovland, Sam Burns, plus 3,300. Justin Thomas. There's a top Corey Connors at plus 4,000. That's 40-1 for Corey Connors. So many options here at Cool Bet. And anything else? We got baseball. What are the Blue Jays? If you wanted to make a nice future bet on the Blue Jays to win the American League, they're plus 700. man, behind the Tigers, Yankees, Astros to make it to the World Series. They are currently in first place. And you want to bet on the Blue Jays to win the World Series, plus 2,000. I don't know. They got the pitching. They're hitting. They'll probably make some additions. Seems like pretty good odds, although the Dodgers have to be the heavy favorite. They're so deep, the Dodgers. So I kind of get it, but I don't know. They're ahead of everyone in the standings. Why hasn't it caught up? Just from a value perspective there, they seems like it should be better than plus 2,000. So the bookmakers think they're on just a hot streak, flash in the pan. We'll see. Oh, AL MVP, Cal Raleigh, plus 550. Big dumper. I was talking about him. Wow, Aaron Judge. That is a crazy, crazy number on Aaron Judge for AL MVP, minus 1,538. That is bonkers. Cal Raleigh as a catcher, plus 550. I don't know. Seems like good val. And then what do you have? Bobby Witt, plus 10,000. And Jose Ramirez, plus. That's the craziest thing I've seen. This AL MVP odds. We got Cy Young, Scooble's minus 333. And Paul Skeens, even though he can't get any wins on Pittsburgh, leading NL Cy Young. Very interesting stuff there. Well, that's the odds from CoolBet. Very easy. Promo code WST. I think that gets you, doubles your deposit for some bonus money there. Any questions, feel free to reach out. I think that's it for me for another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. I thank you everyone who's come in and listened to the show. You had some great guests today. Jamie Thomas off the top of the show, Jets TV, wonderful conversation there. Rob Wong, first time having him on for some good Blue Jays talk. Murat Ates and Mark Arndt of the tournament director of the Winnipeg National Bank Challenger. Enjoy chatting with him. Connor Rabchak will be back in the chair tomorrow. He was at the Coldplay concert in Toronto. And yeah, we're talking hockey, CFL. No CFL tomorrow. It doesn't start till Friday. So lots going on here. Appreciate everyone who's come out. If you're still made it here to the end, please hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It'll tell YouTube that we're putting out some good content. And maybe it'll show it to other people who are interested. Oh, sorry, I'm getting I was late at the Kenny and Randy party last night. So, and shout out to the sponsors, make it all possible. Given the rundown here, Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Fans First, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and CoolBet. And shout out to Bar Dot in chat. Another great show, Remo. You do the job of three people. Thank you for the kind words. Bardo, as it is pronounced. I'll highlight this one. Oh, I don't think it comes up here. Anyways, that's it for me, Michael Remis. I'm in the host chair. I'll be back tomorrow. Hustler, he'll be back next week. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. See you again tomorrow, starting at 1 o'clock on YouTube and again on podcast. Bye-bye.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.